This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so just reminding everyone that this meeting is being recorded. This is March 8th meeting of the Economic and Community Development Commission here in Stratford. I'd like to welcome everybody. Just remind people that in general, public comment, there is no public comment, and any comments from the public can be submitted in writing to the chairman for inclusion in the minutes. With that said, we have our minutes from the last. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept those minutes, please.
Yes, Jim, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Frank. And is there a second?
Joe McKnight, second.
I'll second, Mark.
All right, I heard Joe McKnight. So all in favor of accepting the minutes? Any opposed? We'll just do that since we're on Zoom. Okay, so that passes. Karen, would you like to give the economic development report?
Sure,
update?
I'd be happy to. Yeah. Okay. With regard to the former Center School property, as many of you may know, the committee selected, of the two finalist developers, the committee selected one, and that would be the Spirit Kalanagi team. And they submitted their evaluation sheets recommending Spirit Kalanagi. It was unanimous, and now that decision goes to the town council. I'm not sure whether it will be I guess I don't know if it will be the April meeting where they will take that up, but that will be publicized. With regard to contract plating, that is still on the market. There are actually a few interested parties. So, and as you know too, we are in line for more funding from DECD as long as a developer has been identified. So we're hoping that all comes through. With regard to the Stratford Army Engine plant, excuse me, the town continues to work with the developer to get preparations in place. We had shared that the conveyance date was looking like March 31st. That has been postponed. It's going to be a date in either April or May. But in the meantime, the mayor and Mary will be meeting with the Army on March 22nd to continue to move things along. Parkway Plaza, that's the new development behind Riders Landing. I'm sure many of us driving up Main Street have seen so much clearing in that area. The first phase of that project is in full swing, and that's the development of a Starbucks restaurant. That's the first phase, and there will be additional phases to follow, which will include a restaurant, retail office space, and their plan is a boutique hotel as well. There have been a number of property sales in town, of commercial property sales. The former Ross and Roberts property, that is at the exit 32 on-ramp near that Cumberland Farm, on the opposite side of West Broad from that Cumberland Farms. That property is actually under contract to be sold. The Oronoque Country Club has been sold to an organization called Alliance Golf Management, and they manage, I believe, Oronoque rounds out their portfolio to about 5 golf courses. So we're excited about that. What else? 2909 Main Street, that's a medical office building going down Main Street between Paradise Green and Barnum Avenue. And that sold for $2.7 million. And then another property, 150 Long Beach Boulevard, is a 1.87 acre parcel of land that sold for $1 million recently. With regard to new businesses and ribbon cuttings, we just celebrated a ribbon cutting with Kempo Karate. That took place in Station House Square. And we have Reader's Block. That's the first bookstore in town in quite a while that recently opened in Colonial Square Plaza, right in Stratford Center in the back there. So we're very excited to have a ribbon cutting there tomorrow. Couple other things that we're looking forward to. Orinoke is due to open in Stratford Center. That's going to be a tapas bar very soon at the former location of Sadie's Place. Golden Crust Caribbean Grill is slowly but surely moving into the Knott's Landing property down near Chipotle at the dock. And then we have another restaurant coming on Barnum Avenue, and I understand it's the same owner as the Fratelli restaurant that used to be in Derby. It's going to be called Ristorante di Sofia. So it's going to be Italian, and that's at the site of the former Porta Vallarta restaurant. I know that there was a fire there a number of years ago, and it's been vacant for years. So we're really excited to see that coming along. There are a number of business expansions taking place in town. Nuova Pasta, auto restorations. We know that Brian bought an additional space for his business. Stratton Industries recently closed on a property on Mazurek Avenue. Even Open Door Tea in Paradise Green is looking to take out another storefront. They're doing so well in the green. So they'll be expanding as well. With regard to infrastructure improvements, I don't think we've really reported on these. This is a paragraph actually that Mary shared at the recent commercial realtors breakfast, but I think everybody will find this interesting. The Washington Bridge, aka the Devon Bridge, the DOT will begin work in full swing this spring, and the completion date is slated to be in November, so it won't be too long. And they're going to be working, I think it's only in the evenings when the roads will go to one lane. The exit 33 interchange, northbound is completed. Southbound will be completed in April, so right around the corner. With regard to the Complete Streets project, the work on phase 1 will begin in the spring, so that will be wonderful. We've heard a lot of talk about this, but to actually have things happening. And that will include the construction of a bike and pedestrian lanes from the center of town up to the Barnum Avenue Main Street intersection. And then phase 2 is also being planned, and that will continue from the Barnum Avenue intersection up to Lombrook Avenue. And that's completely funded by the Office of Policy and Management. The Barnum Avenue Cutoff Bridge, now that's down past Burlington. That's where Barnum Avenue Cutoff kind of intersects with Lombrook Avenue. That bridge is going to be rehabbed. They will be actually elevating the bridge and adding sidewalks. So hopefully that will all be very pedestrian friendly and safe in that area as well. The Stratford Avenue Honey Spot Road roundabout, the town is working with the DOT, and that's intended to make that area as well a more pedestrian friendly, well lit and attractive streetscape. We're in the final design phase, and we expect the project to begin in 2023. Okay. And thanks to you folks and specifically Frank Bavacqua for attending the zoning meeting to promote the outdoor entertainment text amendment. Everything is in place with that amendment. There's a free permit that's available online for the restaurateurs, and our office is embarking on outreach to encourage everyone to take advantage of the permit. We have a matter that when we talk about the budget, I'll bring up another matter with regard to noise meters for the police department.
And pausing, I think getting some feedback from someone, so I guess if you're not talking, ask if you can mute.
I'm trying to mute people as I see them kind of interfering.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay. With regard to Celebrate Stratford events, things are coming along, and we're so excited to watch Karen Doyle get the ball rolling with so many actually new additions and enhancing the programs that we have and adding on. She's had some great response from sponsors. Kara, do you want to talk a little bit about Celebrate?
Sure. So we did our initial Celebrate outreach to our sponsors. Jim, I believe I sent you an email kind of just giving you the overview as to what all the sponsorship levels are. And the last time that we met, we discussed the possibility of the commission being a top honor sponsor, which is a $5,000 commitment for possibly Restaurant Week. So I don't know, Kara, if we want to touch on that now.
Okay, we can go into that when we
Okay.
talk about the budget, I think. Okay.
Okay, but yeah, Celebrate is underway. We've got the Birding Festival this year, which is really exciting. I was not living back in Stratford when the Birding Festival took off with Phil Donahue, but from what I hear, it got a lot of buzz. The mayor has asked us to bring it back, but kind of at a lower scale to gauge interest and then possibly build on it in next year's. And then for the summer concert series, what we're doing is we're asking local artists to be opening acts to try to make it more Stratford centric. And then we're rounding it out with our regular events. The Pumpkin Fest, Latin Music Festival, we're looking into different ways to market it. We typically rely on radio ads to market our Celebrate Stratford events, but this year we're going to test the waters with some programmatic digital marketing, which is more targeted. So we might be shifting gears as far as that is concerned next year. This year we're just dipping our toes in it, but yeah, things are coming together and we're excited to bring everything back, even more back to normal than it was last year.
Great.
Does
Great job.
anybody have any questions?
No, I just have a comment, if you don't mind, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please, Dan.
with the Celebrate Stratford stuff, to both the Karens, I know you guys send around the events, but if there is a particular thing you want me to plug, because I do a weekly radio spot on ICC on Wednesdays, I'm happy to share, upcoming weekend events or whatever it may be. That's worthy to share with the broader audience. So you just send me a one-liner and say, hey, can you mention this? And I'll happy to do it.
Okay, you know what I can do, if it's all right with you, Dan? I have a list of media contacts that I do blasts out to every time we have an event, and it's for everything. Like we have this COVID vigil or Ukraine vigil tomorrow. So can I add you to that list, and you can do what you want with it? Either bring it up, or if you think it's not appropriate, don't.
Yeah.
But that I think is the best way to keep you really up to date with everything that we have going on.
Yeah, happy to do it. We focus a lot of their line of questioning is usually around Bridgeport, but I keep reminding them like, hey, the broader greater Bridgeport region includes Stratford and Trumbull and Fairfield, and there's a lot going on in all those communities.
Yeah,
That's a great opportunity, Dan. Thank you.
thank you.
It's Greg Can.
Yeah, Dan, that's awesome. Thanks for offering that. That's really great. Yes, hi, Greg.
Hey, just a question on Complete Street.
Greg, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Are we breaking ground on Complete Streets this year, this spring?
No, Dan, Greg, I think I said that would be in 2023.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Marketing's a good thing.
Okay, any other?
Go ahead, Jim. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm having transmission problems. Sorry. Guys hear me? Frank, can you hear me?
Jim, you're cutting in and out.
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Karen, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Your lips don't necessarily
I'm gonna
match
move.
your voice, but
Sorry. I'm not getting good internet. Hold on. Move.
Jim, you might be able
Sorry,
to save
everyone.
some bandwidth if you cut the camera off. You might be able to save bandwidth.
Can you hear? Can Can you guys hear me now?
After you speak, we do.
Yes,
No.
yes, go ahead.
I don't know why there's a delay. Okay. So there's a delay when I speak?
Little bit.
Okay. Well, let me just ask if anyone has any more questions. Again, I don't know if you heard me say thank you for that offer before. I think that's really great. We can use that publicity. Karen, I do have a quick question on Parkway Plaza. What's the timing on the phase 2 of that project?
You know what, Jim? I'm thinking. I believe it's supposed to be the project is supposed to be completed by 2023. I'm thinking the spring of 2023.
Okay. Okay, good. So we'll all get a report in the minutes of that. That was a pretty lengthy update, which is good. A lot going on in Stratford. So
There's a lot. Okay.
very much, Karen. Are there any other questions on Karen's report?
Not a question, but just a comment. The Washington Bridge or to Devon. I crossed that this afternoon and they were working on that today. They had the Jersey barriers up down the middle and just one lane going in each direction.
Okay.
What exactly
So
are they?
maybe they've started or
They must have. They must be preparing that. Yeah.
That's just repairs to
Okay.
the bridge?
I think it's just rehab. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Not an expansion.
No.
Okay. Okay, no other questions?
Hey, just real quick on, this is Mark Calzone, real quick on the center school property. Has anybody else heard any rumblings of the residents in that area making a big deal about what's going on recently?
Not necessarily. That's gotten back to us, Mark. Have you?
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Karen,
I've seen stuff.
can I chime in? Mark, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've seen just recently, in the past couple of days, all over social media, people like causing a stink about it and starting a petition and complaining about it and wanting to fight what's proposed going in there. You know, the typical stuff.
Yeah, I saw the petition too. The mayor is aware. I haven't heard any feedback from her about it. But there is a petition out there. The last I checked last night, 100 people signed it. I haven't checked today how many people have signed it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure somebody was aware and saw it before it became a bigger deal potentially.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, Karen, you said that's going to go before the council in the April meeting, most likely, and that's for
You know
final.
what? I really can't speak to that, Jim. I know it's not going to go too far out because things are moving along and I know we want to keep the momentum going.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. So that brings us to the old business on our agenda, which is a recap of the commercial realtors breakfast. Can you give us that, please?
Yes, so that took place on February 24th, and it took place at Two Roads in the room called The Vault. Thanks to some of our members who attended, Colin Kennedy, of course, he's the director of marketing for Two Roads, and it was through Colin that we were able to get that location donated for our use. Frank attended, Brian Oliver was there, Dan was there, Greg Can was there. We were able to see Randy. Randy did come to it in his role as a realtor. We were thrilled. There were 57 attendees. The location was wonderful. The food was provided by Tasty Yolk, and everybody seemed to enjoy that. It was a little bit of a different format than in the past. It wasn't a bunch of speakers. We started out with the business video that you folks sponsored, and that was really well received. We were so pleased with that, and it was perfect because it just segued into Colin's few words. He came up and spoke, and Brad Hiddle is featured in the video, so it tied in really nicely. So Mary spoke. Mary spoke to a PowerPoint, and the mayor also was there present to address questions. So it was. We really tried to make it more of an exchange, like a round table, rather more of a give and take. And I think that we were fortunate to have it happen that way. We're very grateful to Two Roads, as I mentioned, and the Milford Bank was our sponsor. And they're always there to support the community, so we're so grateful to them. Actually the breakfast went so well that we're talking about hosting the residential realtors breakfasts, if that's what we choose to do, sooner rather than later. We haven't done that since I've been with the town, and that's been at least 3 to 4 years. And we just think that this is the time with the residential real estate market so busy. I know Mary had talked about perhaps doing this in May and doing the joint commissions meeting in the fall. If you folks would be on board with that.
So is that a plan you want us to discuss this evening?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be a residential realtors breakfast.
Most likely a breakfast format, yes.
And then we would try to do a similar sponsorship. Would it be a total, do we know if it would be a complete different set of realtors and attendees?
Most likely it would be, yes. There would be probably a little bit of overlap, but probably not a lot. And Milford Bank has also already stepped in and told us they would like to sponsor that as well. So, their sponsorship of $500 covered more than half of last week's breakfast. And I'm sure that they would donate at the same level.
Anyone have any thoughts on that? Do we generally support this concept? And then were we originally going to have the meeting with the commissioners in May, or wasn't that going to be in the fall?
We talked about doing that we talked April, and then we said May. That was where we landed at our last commission meeting.
Okay.
So if you folks.
Any thoughts on that from anyone on the commission? Do we want to move? Who's that, Mark?
Yeah, Mark Kelso. I'm good with it. I think it's a great idea. I think with the amount of properties that are moving around in town, the residential idea is good. And then, I think the fall is good for the joint commission, just not too late fall, just so we don't get into any potential, bad weather or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I would support that myself. I think it's a good idea. Does anyone oppose that? Okay. So Karen, why don't we talk about between now and next month, trying to get a venue for it, and then who you would invite, and kind of come up with a format for the meeting, and then we can run it by the commission one more time for how we're going to support it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Let's also get a date for the early fall. I agree with Mark. We should do it before, either in September or early October. I'm thinking maybe September is probably better.
Okay.
Unless anyone has any thoughts on why that wouldn't be good. Okay, so let's target
September. Yeah, September should be fine for that meeting.
Yeah, that's what I think too. All right, thanks, Frank. Okay. We're going to talk about the breakfast and the cost, and we have a few things to vote on with our budget. But first, the storage facility moratorium. Are you going to cover that, Karen, or?
I'm happy to, Jim. Do you want to say a few words on that? You
I
were integral.
participated in that. It went before the planning and zoning. There's a lot of discussion. There were two actually projects that had already gone before the zoning commission. So those two new projects would not be affected by the text amendment that we were proposing. So we made a presentation on why we believe a 12-month moratorium on storage facilities in Stratford is a good idea. And at the end of the evening, the zoning commission voted on it and passed the text amendment to stall sort of the new construction on storage facilities for the next 12 months. That vote does not affect the two projects that were presented to the zoning commission. And I think on those two particular projects, they were asking for more information before they make a final decision on those. Did you have anything else to add to that, Karen or Frank? I know you were in on that call as well.
Really not, just that it goes into effect
Yeah.
on March 16th.
And Frank, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, unfortunately, those two did get in on zoning's agenda, but I think, I don't know, like you said, they asked for more information. They weren't pleased with the way it was presented.
Right, so there's a chance that one or both could still pass and happen. And that's a zoning commission call. That has nothing to do with our commission at this point. But after those two are decided on, then there is a moratorium now for the next 12 months effective March 16th. So that was our position. They passed it, so we were pleased with that. We feel that we can now really gauge what other kinds of businesses that have employees and more just kind of more appropriate to TOD district, you know, those kinds of things are what we're hoping will happen over the next 12 months. Any further discussion?
And can we extend the moratorium? We're going to revisit it, or how's it going to work?
So it's a 12-month moratorium that I do believe, if we still believe it should continue after that period, that we would have to once again bring it before the zoning commission next year.
Okay.
Is that your understanding, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, so we have some things on the budget to discuss. So basically in our budget of $25,000 to date, we've spent approximately $6,500. So we have approximately $18,000 left in the budget. We do have some items we'd like to vote on tonight. Karen, do you want to go through these line items? You want me to do it? Up to you.
Sure, I'm happy to, Jim. So
Okay.
the
Why don't you do it and then I'll run the vote, okay? We have to do it one by one.
Okay. So the first one is in the amount of $304, and that's the difference between what the bill was for Tasty Oak to provide the breakfast at the Realtors Breakfast, and the $500 that Milford Bank sponsored. So the total bill was $804, leaving a $304 difference.
My 2 cents on that is that for the $304, we get a lot out of that. So it's well worthwhile. But we do need to have a formal vote. So why don't I ask if anyone is opposed to the $304 coming out of this year's budget to support that breakfast? So I will assume all in favor. Thank you. That one passes. Karen, can you do the next one, please? The noise
Okay.
meter?
Yes. When I mentioned the outdoor entertainment text amendment, I mentioned that I'll be addressing the noise meter issue. The police department has requested 3 noise meters in order to enable them to enforce the outdoor music text amendment. And the health department gave us a recommendation. The meters that they use, that they purchased, were about 400 and little over $400 each. Anyway, I went to Amazon. If we were to purchase 3 of these noise meters, the total would be $1,301.73. So we're hoping that.
Can I just ask you, why do we think we need 3? I mean, do we expect that we need to have meters sort of around town? I mean, are they going to be used free? Should we start with 1 or 2?
You know what, Jim? Actually, I sat in on a meeting that included the chief of police, the director of the health department, Maureen Whalen, also of the health department, and they just had a real conversation about what they anticipate the need to be, and that was what they came up with. And I'm sorry, it was in addition to Chief McNeil, it was Assistant Chief Popick. So based on what they are anticipating, they were the ones who said that the 3 would be appropriate.
Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, can I just ask why they would be coming to us to pay for that versus that coming out of the police department budget, and if they're going to be responsible for enforcing it?
You know what, Mark, I think just because it hasn't been part of the budget in the past, and because the commission has been, initiated the amendment.
I see Dan had to leave. Thanks for coming, Dan. Mark, that's a good question. I think when this whole topic came up, we did indicate that we really supported this measure and we think it's really good for the town of Stratford. And I think it was felt that if the noise meters were required to enforce it, then we'd be willing to support it to a certain degree. Personally, I don't see why we wouldn't just start with 2 anyway. And if we need a third,
that was gonna be my suggestion, Jim. I'd be fine with it if we start with 2 and approve the cost for 2, and then tell them if they want, if they think they need more after that, then then they can come back to us, or maybe at that point it can come out of their budget, or we could see how often they need to actually use them.
right.
Jim, if I could.
Go ahead, Frank. Thank you.
Okay, so when we did go before the zoning commission, Mary Dean and I were there at town hall when they had their meeting, and we presented this whole text amendment about the noise ordinance. We did say that we would pay for the noise meters. It is the health department who ultimately governs the noise ordinance, but we realize that it's the police department who would be responding to complaints. So we did say that we would equip some of the cars in town, the police cars in town, with these noise meters.
At the time, did they discuss how many noise meters we might need? I mean, if we committed to it, I would feel an obligation for $400 to support it. I was just thinking that, if we give it to them and then really see how many times are they really needed, we could always add a third. So
I agree.
Right. You got to figure there's usually 7 or 8 police cars on the road at all times, and I guess there must be figuring, well, if we got in 3 cars, it kind of covers the whole town instead of just having 2 and having a car try to travel long distance just to bring a noise meter out and take them off their regular beat. So 2 or 3, I don't know if we want to cut it short.
okay, that's good point. Any other comments or feelings about that?
Greg Cam.
Greg?
Thank you, Jim. The noise meters are essential, but the noise ordinance predates the outdoor entertainment. So I would my feeling is the town should fund it as a matter of its own pre-existing rules and regulations, and that if this committee pays for it for the first year, just do it in that context, that it could be a residential party. There's a lot of purposes for these noise meters, and the town needed them irregardless. That's it.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to agree with Greg on that also. And, say if we decide to go with the 3, like kind of just preface that it's a one-time thing. And if they decide that they need more, it'll have to come out of somebody else's budget the next time around.
Okay. Karen, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, I don't think that was the thought, that we would be signing on for, this would be the responsibility now of the commission. I think it would just be the one-time thing. And just FYI, the health department does own a noise meter that they use for various things, including rooster calls.
We have
Yeah.
roosters?
Maureen Whalen has to go sit in her car and monitor the rooster calls.
Oh, geez.
So.
Okay, so I think in this matter, so we do need to vote on this. Frank, would you, or anyone, would you like to make a motion on this since we had some discussion? And that way we can bring it to a vote?
Yes, Jim. Thank you. I would make the motion to purchase 3 noise meters to equip the town fully.
And, okay, and do you want to add wording about that this is in support of the text amendment? I shouldn't ask you that, but there was discussion about making it a one-time commitment, if you will, so that we're not, people aren't looking to us to support it additionally in the future. So that would be as a discussion point. Does anyone else with that motion? Well, I'll ask for a second to the motion and then we can have some discussion to do this properly. Is there a second to the motion?
Joe McKnight can second the motion.
Okay, Joe seconded. So now let's have some discussion. Let me ask the commission members first for their input. Were you going to say something, Mark?
Jim, yeah, I would say I'd be fine voting in favor as long as we do nicely preface that it's in support of the text amendment and it's a one-time purchase, just so there's no assumption to, I don't think they will, but just so we're clear, not to come back to us for any future purchases.
Frank, do you want to amend your motion to include that wording?
I will accept that amendment. Yes.
Okay, so then I'll ask for a second with the amended wording.
Joe McKnight seconds.
Joe did? Joe McKnight
Yeah.
did? Okay. And then I'll ask for discussion one last time. Is there any further discussion on the amended motion? Okay, so any opposed? I'm going to assume all in favor. Are there any opposed? All right, well, good. Thank you for all that input. That's great. So that passes, Karen.
Great.
So the next one is basically, Randy Vidal, who I served on this commission for many years, was very valuable. As you know, he retired recently from our commission. We would like to purchase a plaque in recognition of his service for $100. And Karen, do you want to add to that?
Sure. Yes, I have been looking into something appropriate for Randy, and I did identify, I think it's very, very lovely. It's a almost like a paperweight. There is a glass portion that can be etched, but there's a lighthouse on it. And I just think he's a Lordship resident, Stratford resident, and that would be, I think it would be very meaningful to Randy. And in addition to that, too, if you folks would be up for this, another thought was to, if that would could be funded by the commission. And again, I suggested $100, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be less than that. The one that I saw was, I believe it was like $88, and that included the inscription. But I just said 100 to make sure we didn't fall short. But Mary and I also spoke about inviting everybody to contribute toward a gift card to Riley's. We know that Randy enjoys going to Riley's in Lordship. If folks are on board, I can share my Venmo account if you want to send a check into us at Town Hall, whatever's more convenient for you, if this is in fact something that you would like to do.
Okay, so let's not put anyone on the spot with that part of it, Karen. Let's send a separate email to the commission on this part of that. Regarding the plaque, I think it's appropriate that that would come out of the budget for his service to the commission. So are there any other discussion matters on that? Anyone like to bring up any points there? So anyone opposed to $100 coming out of our budget for that? Any opposition? Okay, I'm going to assume all in favor. Thank you very much. Karen, if we do have this residential realtors breakfast in May, maybe we can use that as a time to present it to Randy.
That's a sweet thought.
Is that appropriate? Invite him to the breakfast and.
That's a nice thought.
Okay.
Good idea. Good idea.
Great idea.
Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, now we spoke about the Celebrate Stratford event. Do we want to touch on that one more time? What's being asked is a $5,000 sponsorship for that. We did that last year, I believe, Karen. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct. Last year, the commission sponsored the restaurant week as a top honor sponsor, and you guys were tagged onto that. If you wanted to do that again, that would be fantastic. Restaurant week is April 24th to April 30th, and marketing will begin in about 2 or 3 weeks. So it would be great to have a commitment so that we can tag you guys onto any type of marketing materials that we're doing.
I think in past years, we've discussed that, you know, the restaurants are such a huge part of the Stratford community that we as an Economic and Community Development Commission feel it's a very worthy effort to promote the restaurants in Stratford. So are there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion on this, or anyone like to make any points before we take it to a vote? Okay, so is there anyone opposed to the same $5,000 sponsorship that we did last year for that week? Okay, so I will assume all in favor. So that passes. Thank you. And Karen, there's one more item on there, marketing subcommittee expenses. Are we ready to discuss that tonight? I know Colin's not on. Karen?
Colin is not on, but we did, Colin and I did meet with Marianne Blahak, who is part of our marketing subcommittee team now. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you guys will be able to hear me kind of run through what we're hoping that the commission can fund. So I know last week we had some technical difficulties, but if you can see this, this is kind of our inspiration. I tried to email this to you guys after the meeting. So our hope is to have something like this, the shape of Stratford, the outline of the Stratford map with icons that a graphic designer will create to identify our historic landmarks as well as our natural resources. And we've come up with a list of 15 places to dot all throughout this map. And if you take your mouse and you hover over a location, it will automatically link you to an existing website with information about that location. There's also talk about creating a sublink underneath it for the places that don't have specific locations, because there are so many things that go on in town. There are mile markers and something about the Devon Bridge. There's a very cute story about that, but there's not a website that exists. So all of that will be included within this website. Colin and I have been working on a QR code. So the idea is to create this map and have it live both digitally and on an actual, piece of paper, something tangent that you can hold. So here are the price points for that. Switch gears again. Okay, so the graphic designer that Colin, Marianne, and I have thought that was the best bet is $750. She might go a little bit over that, but we're going to try to get her at close to $750 as we can. From there, we thought about handing out palm cards, which are the same size as a postcard, but they're just not mailed. Our recommendation is that if we're going to be spending $220 on 250, we might as well go up to printing 2,000 at a $450 price point. Colin also suggested printing out a small run of 11 by 17 posters to hang up in local businesses and to possibly even hang up in our municipal buildings. That comes in at $175 for 50. Colin also suggested the idea of having a window cling, which is just basically something that you can throw on a window and remove it. We could hand those out to businesses. I'm hesitant to bring that into the campaign because our office is running a big buy local campaign. So we're already asking businesses to hand out something for buy local. So I'm a little like 50-50 on that. But essentially the ask is $750 for the graphic designer, $450 to print out the palm cards, an additional $175 for the posters.
Karen, you said you identified the 15 locations that we feature?
Yes.
Do you have that list that we can look at?
I don't have a list prepared for you to look at, but I can run through it with you. It's Short Beach, Long Beach, Roosevelt Forest, Lighthouse Point, and the 7 museums that we have here in town, which are, if I can list them off the top of my head, the National Helicopter Museum, Connecticut Air and Space, Judson House, Perry House, African American Museum. Karen Sportini, if you could help me out, figure out the last two. Merritt Parkway Museum, and I think we're also listing, are we listing Lighthouse as a museum? I think that's it.
Okay.
What about Booth Park?
Booth Park, yes, we have Booth Park with the Veterans Museum and the Railroad Society connected to that, yes.
So the ask here, so with these costs, with the final product, you'd be able to produce the final product for this cost? Is that what you're indicating? Or is this a draft that then there'd be additional cost?
No, this would be final product. It's coming out as $1,375.
And then my only other question is 50 posters for $175 enough? That under the same theory that if for $250 for $220, you know what I mean? Are you thinking you put posters around town in various businesses?
That was our thinking, yes. Like hang them up in the municipal buildings and various businesses. But if we want to up that, I think it would be incremental. We could maybe increase the whole thing by maybe $25, $50.
Right. Any questions or comments before we vote on it? Are you asking us to vote on this tonight, Karen?
We're hoping to get some movement on it because we have an event promoting Stratford Museum. Stratford Museum Day is tentatively going to be held June 11th through the 12th. And we're hoping to have all of this rolled out by then. And between the graphic designing and the printing, we're going to need a good 2.5, 3 months to get this up and running.
It's Greg Can.
Go ahead, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I'm absolutely in favor of strategic marketing of the town, and I'm thinking of leveraging these QR codes for more of a, what I'll call a web-based. So if we were posting something on Go Connecticut, Visit Connecticut, or some other tourist type online portal, would the QR codes work through that avenue also?
Right. So to back up, the QR code is basically something that's only going to live on the printed material. We're also going to create a website that is linked directly to the Town of Stratford website. So the only way that you can access the QR code is if you actually, scan it with your phone. So if you were to post it on social media, Greg, or Instagram, any of those platforms, you could link it directly to the web page. The QR code basically brings people who are more familiar with a tangible map to the digital format.
It's a good step to put something in people's hands, and partnering it with an online presence. We're going to get some increased regional visitors to the town of Stratford. Good.
Karen,
Thank you, Jim.
and excuse me too, I just want to make sure, Greg, when you mention a strategic marketing plan, I think Karen has that really well covered. Karen, you want to talk about the tie-in with Connecticut Open House Day and
Yes.
the Booth Park Rose
Yes. So
celebration?
everything kind of dovetailed and meshed really well together. June 11th is Connecticut Open House Day, when all of our buildings and museums and businesses are basically welcoming people, and it's a big statewide effort. So we're kind of marrying into that. And the Booth Park Commission is also holding an anniversary celebration. I think it's their 30th year anniversary of the Rose Garden. So they have a celebration occurring that day. I believe they're holding an event which sounds really cute, something like Roses and Rosé to that effect. So that is also landing on the same day as, or the same weekend as Stratford Museum Day or Stratford Museum Weekend, whatever we decide to call it. I also believe that the Veterans Museum is hosting some sort of SRO event that night. So everything's kind of lining up together very nicely.
Question, if, I think that you need to decide, maybe as a committee, if you need 50 or 100 posters, and or whether or not you need window clings. I don't know I don't even really know what a window cling is. I assume it's something you stick on someone's window and then.
It's literally like a temporary sticker. I'm leaning away towards the window clings. They're expensive and we're already pushing them out. Colin asked me to quote it out. He and I did not have time to touch base prior to meeting. So my recommendation, based off meeting with Colin and Marianne, would be to go for the 2,000 palm cards. And I think we should keep the posters at 50. If we see a need to increase that, we can take it from there. This is digital printing. It's not very expensive. Again, it's an incremental cost.
Okay. I was going to suggest that we make it a line item of $1,500 and then allow you to kind of work the budget and figure out what you need and where, because it just seems like you need a little flexibility when you don't know for sure what the graphic designer is going to be, or how many posters we really need. And this way, for another $200 or $300 in the budget, if we allow it, not that you just want to spend it, but that you have up to that amount to support this effort.
It would be great to have a little wiggle room, as this is the first time we're doing something like this. And then if we want to print more posters on the back end, I can use that money to put towards that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, Jim, Mark Calzone, I think you must have read my mind. I was going to say I'm good with the plan, and I was going to say let's go with 1,500, so there was a little bit of buffer.
Yep. You want to make a motion on that, Mark?
Yes, I'll make a motion to support this marketing plan at the amount of $1,500.
Is there a second?
I'll second that one. Yep, that's good.
Okay. Assuming all in favor, is anyone opposed? Okay, so that passes. So you guys can move forward with it. Thank you for all the time and effort you and Colin are putting into this. I think it's going to be great.
I think
And,
it's going to be great too. And I'll reach out to the graphic designer, and at our April meeting, maybe I'll be able to show you some of our design ideas that we've come up with, just to keep you guys up to speed with where we're at.
Okay, any other old business or new business? The next meeting is scheduled for April 12th. I believe I won't be in town, but there was some discussion about having this in person. Is that right, Karen Sportini?
Correct. Yes.
Frank, I mean, I would try to call in, but maybe if I'm not there in person, Frank, you can chair the meeting if you're around then?
Yes, I should be available.
Okay. So does anyone object to having the meeting in person for COVID reasons still in April? I think, Karen, if we do have it, we should have a call-in option as well. Is that possible?
You know what, Jim? That will really depend on the governor's orders. I'm not sure if that's an option.
We can discuss that offline. Let's just decide that we're going to have the meeting in person, and then if it's within the guidelines, we'll try to have a call-in option. But I'm not sure that is, so we'll discuss that.
Right.
Hey, Jim, this is Joe McKnight speaking. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I have no objection to coming in and meet in person with you guys. I do work for a West Coast company, so the call-in feature would be a benefit to me in case I have meetings that surround this one. But yeah, if we can do it, that's great. If not, I understand.
Okay, thanks for that input. We can talk between now and the next meeting. We'll make a decision. Does anyone else have any opinion or thoughts on it? Does anyone prefer the call-in also? I mean, or I know some people prefer it in person and some prefer call-in. No preference from anyone?
No preference, Jim. I would say, I mean, obviously, I think just you probably, if you're doing it in person and have the option and are able to do the call-in, I think you have a greater likelihood of getting more members to join if they have other, if they can't come in person, but they could call in. So that would be my only comments on that.
Okay. Any
Jim,
other?
I'm not opposed to every other one, just to throw it out there as an idea.
Say that again, Joe?
I'm not opposed to every other one being live.
Okay. Yeah, we're trying to work with everyone's schedule and concerns, and I think it's worked out well. I'm actually pleased with how these virtual meetings have worked out. I actually think they've been pretty effective. So we'll have more discussion in between, and then we'll let everyone know what the plan is before the next meeting, which is April 12th. Any other issues?
Jim, I was just going to ask if at some point after the meeting, if we could just get an update after all the stuff that we just approved, the expenses, if we just can get an update of what's left for the budget for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Karen, can you do
Right.
that?
I can tell you that up until the $1,500 approval for the maps, we were at $11,707.77.
So
Perfect.
in other
Thank
words,
you.
we're about $10,000 left, thereabouts.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And
Thank
if
you.
could summarize that budget so that we do have that for the next meeting, Karen?
Sure.
Do another budget review because we only have 2 more months in this year's fiscal year. Well, we have 3, April, May, and June.
Wow.
The fiscal year ends June 30th, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So, always open to ideas. How do we promote Stratford? How do we promote business in Stratford? There was mention last month about a video, Karen.
Right, Jim. And that still is definitely something that's on the table. We just haven't moved ahead with that yet. But the intention of that would be to kind of coincide with the map idea, promoting the museums, the natural assets.
So I think we should really look at, if we're going to do that, plan it, and so we can present it, because that's a $5,000
In this budget, yep,
in this
definitely,
budget. Okay.
sure.
Anything else from anyone? I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Bavacqua, is there a second?
Joe seconds that.
All right, thank you, Joe. With that, the meeting's adjourned, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great night, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Right.
Okay,
Thanks,
Be well.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
bye.